Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. This is going to be my 2020 reading stats where I'm going to go through all of my stats, such as the number of each genre I've read and the average number of pages a book, those type of stats. I was originally going to show you my spreadsheet that I use, but I filmed that and then I didn't like how it turned out, so I'm just going to say it, list out the stats as I read them and all of that. So this might be all over the place, but let's go. So to start off, if I look over here, that is because I have most of my stats on my computer here, and then I have a couple little notes that I had to write down to figure out some stats that my formula doesn't, or at least this year's stat, 2020's stat thing doesn't include. I use in 2020 and for 2021 I used Allie from the Hardback Hoarder. I think that is her channel name. I use her spreadsheet, so I'll leave the 2021 spreadsheet linked down below. I do not keep track of everything on that spreadsheet, but the 2021 was simple, except I cut out a bunch of the things because I didn't feel the need to track them, and then some of those things I'm tracking for 2021, but let's just get on with the actual stats. So I read 196 books, which is a total of 77,633 pages. I read about triple the amount of books in 2020 than I read in 2019. In 2019 I read 66. So I read triple the amount of books from 2019. I read an average per month was 16.3 books, or 16 books a month, which some of those months were exactly 16. Some of them, the range from books was between 12 books and 24 books in a month, 12 being my lowest reading month, 24 being my biggest reading month. I read 138 ebooks and 58 physical books. Let's go on to genres. So I read 2 classics, or 1% of the amount of books I've read, 25 contemporary, or 12.8% of the books read. I read 17 dystopian, or 8.7%. I read 123 fantasy, or 62.8%. I read 10 graphic novels, or 5.1%. I read 3 historical books, or 1.5%. I read 6 horror, or 3.1%. I read 2 paranormals, which was 1%. 4 romance, which is 2%. 2 sci-fis, which is 1%. And 2 thrillers, which is 1% of the books read. Now on to, let's do audience next. So I read 9 adult books. I read 5 middle grade. I read 20 new adult and 162 YA, which that 162 YA is more than fine with me because I am, as filming this, 16, so I am the perfect YA demographic, so there's nothing wrong with that. Now on to the star ratings. You will notice that there are there's not that big of a varying amount, but you'll see. So 4 books were DNF'd, or 2% of the books I read were DNF'd. 3 books, or 1.5%, I gave 2-star. 13 books, or 6.6%, I gave 3 stars. 9 books, or 4.6%, I gave 3.5 stars. 75, or 38.3%, I gave 4 stars. 29, or 14.8%, were 4.5, and 63, or 32.1% books were 5 stars. You'll notice that I gave a lot of 5 stars, and that is because I give out 5 stars, not too much, but I also managed to read a bunch of books that I loved this year, and for 2021, I am doing a mix of the Cawpile, I think that is how you pronounce it, which is a like rating system created by G from Book Roast. I will leave her video talking about this about the thing. It's basically like a spreadsheet, but I just use the like rating method, and even then for 2021 here, I'm using that. But then also, if I feel like I don't get the rating that I want on that like formula thing, I will just do my own. It's kind of, I'm using a mix so that I give not less 5 stars, but only give books that actually deserve 5 stars. You get what I'm saying? And then let's talk a little bit about my books acquired. In 2020, I spent $300.25 on books, which seems like a lot, but there was 41 books, so like that could be worse, honestly. And then I read 83% of the books acquired, so that means that a couple of the books weren't read, but most of them were. A lot of these books that I did purchase in 2020 were books that I've already read, but I wanted to get physical copies. So for example, an example of that would be Red, White, and Royal Blue, A Court of Thorn and Roses, Red Queen, Shadow and Bone. Like, those are some examples of books that I read, then I bought copies of, so it's like, could be a lot worse. Now onto the stats that I have written down. So, for the shortest book that I read was The Lost Sisters by Holly Black, which is 50 pages long, and that is a The Folk of the Air novella. It's like novella 1.5. And the longest book that I read was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, and that is 984 pages, and that is the 7th and final book in the Throne of Glass series. For the most popular book that I read this year, I hate that I read this book this year, but the most popular book I read this year was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by She Who Will Not Be Named. I read this back in January, so I read this before everything happened with J.K. Rowling, and I don't know if I plan on continuing the series. I read 4 of the Harry Potter books in 2020, and I don't know if I plan on continuing reading this series. Like, I want to continue this series because 13-year-old me would want me to, because of reasons, but like past me would want to continue this series, but I don't know if I can separate the book from the author. I want to say I can. I own 2 of the books that I need to read. So I'm like, do I read them? I don't know. That is a thing for me to decide for 2021. I am leaning towards read them, but then get rid of the copies that I have and never read them again. But this was not meant to be this kind of video, but I noticed that and I was like, oh fuck. And that book has almost 9 million like ratings or shelved or whatever it was. I think it was like almost 9 million people shelved it as something. And then the least popular book was There Was Fire by C. Bryant, which only had 2 people shelved, which one was me. I own a author copy of this book. The author so graciously sent it to me, and like, I liked it. It was okay. We're not here for reviews. The highest rated book on the shelf, on my Goodreads shelf, is The Seer Sister by Carol Beth Anderson, which has a 4.82% rating. This is I believe, an indie published, actually no, it's not even a published one. It's a free prequel novel when you join Carol Beth Anderson's newsletter, and I read that. I gave it a 4.5, so like, yeah. Now on to like averages. I should have done this in a different order, but whatever. So average number of pages, so like this is like an average number of pages is 396. So that means like the average size of book was 396. The average page number per day was 212. There are definitely some days that I read much more than that. For example, a day I read 500 pages, a 500-page book, but then there was other days that I only read maybe like 50 or 60 pages. The average rating, this one was hard to decide because Goodreads gave me one, and then my spreadsheet gave me another, so I could be totally wrong or I could have miscalculated this, but the average is about 4.29, so like that's okay. I feel like I'd want that a little bit lower just to show that I'm not reading just 5-star books, but 4.29, I'm happy with that. And I think that is all of the stats that I have, or at least all that I can think of. Yeah, that's all the stats that I have, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know some of your stats, like how many books you read, or like what was your most read genre. I do plan for genres to try to expand more genres and read more genres and just overall have a more broader thing, like read less fantasy and more other genres, but like so far, based on the first 11 days of the month, it's not looking like that, so we'll just have to see. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!